Don says in question 18, perhaps I can question it slightly differently here. I might ask why loss of knowledge and control over the body was helpful. Yeah, why lose knowledge over the body and what's happening in the body? So here Ra says, the knowledge of the potentials of the physical vehicle before the veiling offered the mind, body, spirit a free range of choices with regard to activities and manifestations of the body, but offer little in the way of development of polarity. And I'll talk about that asterisk in a second. They continue to say, when the knowledge of these potentials and functions of the physical vehicle is shrouded from the conscious mind complex, the mind-body-spirit complex is often nearly without knowledge of how to best manifest its being or its beingness. Okay, so where am I? Here we are. So in question 18, there's something that I'll say. There is, don't ask me why I say this, but I like to be thorough. The addition of the raw contact, I'm actually curious to see if this was left. It must have been left in the re-listen version. Let's look it up. So question 18, yes. This is why it is totally recommended from my point of view that you read the raw contact. So let's get a little bit nerd with the material here. There is the re-listen version, which is almost a complete, if not complete, transcript of the whole Q&A, everything that we can listen to in the audios. And then there is the raw contact, which is this book. You can get in Amazon. If you're watching YouTube, you can see it. Why did this happen? Here it is. Okay, so we have that book. That's the raw contact, and you can find it online too, obviously free. And you'll be able to read it directly. And so I recommend that you go to the format of the raw contact. Why? Because there are some edits that make it easier to read it, and one such edit is this one. Ra initially said here, if you go back to the question or the answer that they said the loss to the conscious mind of the knowledge, but that doesn't make sense, and I'll do my best to explain why. Because they begin to say the loss to the conscious mind of the knowledge of the potential of the physical vehicle. So far so good, right? They're trying to explain why the laws of consciousness of this knowledge of our body and the functions within. But then they say before the veiling offer the mind, body, spirit. They're talking about post-veil, and then they move into pre-veil. We don't know why this was said this way. It just shows that Ra is not an infallible source of information, especially because they were in a medium of contact, and that's just the nature of these channelings. So some incoherence might be present. They have done a tremendous work with this material, so we know that it has been very well combed, so to speak. But yeah, in this case, it's nothing big. It's just that they started talking about the loss, because it did happen. They're talking about the loss to the conscious mind of this knowledge. But then they move into talking about the conditions before the veil. So we're left with conditions before the veil, and then we can move on to post-veil. All right, so yeah, I just wanted to mention that. Okay, so what do they say? The knowledge of the potentials of the physical vehicle before the veiling offer the mind, body, spirit a free range of choices with regard to activities and manifestations of the body, but offer little in the way of development of polarity. So likewise, and they'll use the same example of sexual energy transfer, likewise, the knowledge of prevail prevented polarization. This can be understood, of course, as if I know everything, then I don't care about anything. See, I don't have a drive, a will. I don't have this narrow focus of attention to drive my life and my experience, thus increasing polarization in one way or another. So that makes sense. And Ross says, when the knowledge of these potentials and functions of the physical vehicle is shrouded, so when the veil is drawn, the conscious mind complex, the mind-body-spirit complex, is often nearly without knowledge of how to best manifest its beingness. I think there was also a correction here. Body complex was removed. Okay, so there might be another instance here where, oh no, this is no, that's later on. Okay, so oh no, there's an edit here in mind, body, spirit, but that's already, yeah, they say mind, body, spirit complex. So in essence, I'm just saying this because if you listen, you can actually go to lawofone.info and listen to the to the audio. If you listen to it, you'll see that Ra says the loss to the conscious mind of the knowledge. That's how they start. And they also say mind, body, spirit complex when they say offer the mind, body, spirit complex a free range of choices. So complex was removed, and also the beginning of the answer was removed for clarity. Complex was also corrected in session 87, so it was an arbitrary decision. It was taken out of Ra making a correction later on. When Don, Ra and Don corrected this in session 87. So, okay, let's finish this up. When they say, when the knowledge of these potentials and functions, so when the knowledge of these potentials and functions is taken away from the conscious mind, then there is, it leaves the conscious mind. When this is taken away from the conscious mind, it leaves it without knowledge of how to best manifest its beingness. So a lot of people would say, like, why would we handicap ourselves? Well, because that's what we need for polarization. Don't ask me. I wasn't there pre-veil. I don't know all the questions. I don't know all the answers. But it makes sense. It makes sense to me that you make it difficult. You see, imagine a game. People often forget this, or have a wrong notion that this is work, because we have this in our minds. We think that to accomplish things, you need to struggle and make an effort to it. And while this is true in the meaning of work as electricity, right? You have work being done by potential electricity. It is untrue to imagination. You see, I said that wrong. It is also the same in imagination. Like, you need to put work to imagine things, but the purpose of imagination is to enjoy your infinite potential of imagining things, right? So that's what consciousness is doing. And for this to be worth it, it needs to be difficult. Because if awareness knows itself, then it's a game that is not worth playing. It's so easy. Just like any other video game. You want a certain amount of resistance. You don't want to be completely out of knowledge of everything. You have to have some knowledge. So imagine you're playing chess, right? And you're playing with somebody who you can easily beat. I mean, they're not even trying. They barely even know how to move the pieces, right? Is it worth it? No, you would lose interest. It would be too easy. On the other hand, if you play somebody who is very good and you are barely able to move the pieces around him or her, then it's not worth it either. It's too difficult. So you want the right amount of resistance, and this is what the veil provided. The right amount of resistance for us to continue on interested in this game of life. That's the whole purpose of it. And so the veil was introduced, and it has been, according to Ra, reshaped and redesigned in certain ways as to deliver what we have now, which is, I think it's a beautiful, if you look at the nature of mind, and then you look at the nature of consciousness, and then you look at the nature of physical reality, you see, wow, I can't believe this feels so real. And that's what it is. That's why the mystic is so fascinated with whatever's happening. You see, because there's not a shadow of a doubt that this is consciousness. There's nothing real here, and yet it feels so real, and we can have such a vivid experience. This is what befuddles the seeker initially, because it says, no, this is very real. What do you mean this is an illusion? And so some people take it as deceit, an illusion in terms of deceit. It's an illusion in terms of magic. That's what illusion is. It's a magic. It's a magic trick. It's a magic trick of the mind. Beautiful. Just beautiful. So we want to go back to that knowledge. And that's what we do in this path with the law of one, non-duality, or simply mystical traditions. Okay. Ra says, to finish this up, however, this state of lack of knowledge offers an opportunity for a desire to grow within the mind complex, as I was explaining. This desire is that which seeks to know the possibilities of the body complex, the ramifications of each possibility, and the eventual biases thusly built have within them a force which can only be generated by such desire or will to know. So there it is. That's the narrowing of focus that I said, and that I was alluding to with the refinement of the veil to give us this perception of reality and this feeling of being a human, being a body, being a mind, and separate from everything else. It just makes it more worth it. It's the ultimate version of the game that we're playing. You see, if you want updates on this game, you're gonna have to contribute to it. So you're gonna have to add to whatever the mind is, the universal mind. Add to it. I know a lot of people are saying, no, this is too hard, this is too difficult. Well, your praise may be heard. I like it, and I think everybody else that penetrates the veil says, yes, I agree, I like it. But again, we all vote. I guess this is a democratic system. So yeah, I don't think I have much to add here. If you reread it, you see that Ra is saying just that. This state of ignorance, you see, Ra doesn't say ignorance, but lack of knowledge is ignorance. That's what we call avidya. It's ignorance. It's not ignorance as being stupid or dumb. It's ignorance in the sense of, oh, I ignored that. I had no knowledge of it. So yeah, this offers an opportunity for a desire to grow within the mind complex. Notice that they don't talk about the body complex. You don't grow in the body complex. You grow in the mind. So the mind needs to be sharpened as a tool to grow. So this desire is that which seeks to know the possibilities of the body complex, of course. It's through the body that we have experiences. So we tend to grow in mind so we can make better use of the body. And because we don't have any knowledge of the body, then we learn more, and we want to know more about the body. We have sciences all around the body. The ramifications of each possibility and the eventual biases thusly built have within them a force which can only be generated by such desire or will to know. So yeah, these biases are are within, and they, these biases, as they say, have built within them a force which can only be generated by such desire or will to know, or ignorance. So the more we ignore, the more we want to know, and because we are veiled, that knowing has to be directed by will. So it's not just like, oh, I'm just gonna tap into this and then I'm gonna have access to all the knowledge. Non-duality was predicated like this in the late 19th century and early 20th century. Perhaps even now we still have some vestiges of this romanticizing of non-duality in the West, where it was about controlling the mind and controlling your reality and doing all these psychic things. And I don't deny that that's a possibility, of course, because the more you train your mind and the more you're capable to do here in this physical reality. But that's not the point of non-duality. That's just a distraction within it. The point of non-duality is to live from all power, all being. And all being, all power is not trying to manipulate reality, is enjoying reality. So it's a stepping stone, I would guess, for some people. Later on, it needs to be refined into something else, into some sort of service, and detach service, I suppose. But yeah, that's just my take.